Alrighty, so if you are new to the deer, or if you're like me and you haven't done the deer in a long time and need a refresher, I have looked into it, and apparently this is the current best team for deer. And I do have to say, I think I would agree with that, because I do think that this team is very consistent. We're obviously going to be using the deer card set and everything here. This is like optimal like team setup here, so I'm assuming you already have these characters and everything. If you don't, I do have older deer videos up on the channel. But I personally haven't done the deer in quite a while. Before today, at least, they did announce a new relic that's coming out in the newest update as of the time of me recording this. So I'm kind of needing to get back into the swing of things, because normally I just do whatever's newest and whatever I need to work on for relics. So this team, I actually kind of like this team a lot, just because it's not using any light or dark characters. I know some of the teams that people use, like originally, I think people tried to use Trader Melly and stuff like that for, the bird, and whenever the deer came out, people kind of used him for that as well. And although it did work, and I mean, it's not terrible to have a dark or light unit on the team, they obviously don't contribute to the color wheel mechanic that is kind of the big mechanic that you have to work around with the deer. So if you're new or you forgot, the color wheel mechanic takes place in phases 2 and phase 4 of each of the 3 floors, and basically all you have to do is follow the color wheel in counterclockwise. So you have to go red, green, blue, and then just whatever skill you use first, you need to use the next skill after that one in that order. So it's not typically too difficult to sort of get the swing of things here. For this phase specifically, he doesn't have a damage cap, so I'm just going to do a whole bunch of damage here and try to kill with the tier skill here, and I'm going to throw that card away, so I'm not really too worried about it. But the first skill that you use doesn't really do as much damage because you're not starting the color wheel, and the game wants to reward you for following the color wheel, so you're going to do more damage on those. Like when it tells you to use a red skill and you use a red skill, it typically does more damage kind of thing. So if you can start the color wheel phase off with a skill that you're just wanting to kind of throw away and get into the swing of things, I would typically recommend that. Or because the fourth skill that you're going to use is going to be the same color as the first skill that you use if you're going in the color wheel. If you have more red skills in hand, start with a red skill and then go around and then use a second red skill on the fourth card. Obviously, that doesn't fit that doesn't fit Jormungand's passive quite as well, because you typically want to try and use different skills like from different heroes, but and if you use an extra skill at the end, if you use a fourth skill, it doesn't give that character who used the fourth skill the stat increase from Jormungand's passive. So yeah, there's a couple of like weird quirks, but realistically you get a ton of stats and stuff from Jormungand just being on the field in general, and her holy relic is crazy. So this team is full unknown, and you're getting Nanashi buffs from it, you're getting Jormungand buffs from it, you're getting everything that you need, basically. You're super tanky with this team. It's incredible, honestly. It's actually crazy. So we're going to use a blue skill here to start the color wheel off, since that's a Nanashi skill. He's like the weakest character on the team. I do have Freyr's ultimate in hand, so we'll just go ahead and use that, and then we can finish off with a green skill and then a blue skill. But realistically, we'll probably only use 3 of these skills, because obviously bypassing, or doing 2 damage caps with that skill is going to take off quite a bit of HP. So first floor, obviously very easy, not anything super crazy to worry about. Let's hop into the second floor. Alrighty, so starting the second floor, I tend to use all 4 skills here. I'm just going to use 1 of each. That way we can go ahead and kill this phase in 1 turn. Realistically, normally you would want to use 3 skills, move a card or whatever to get the max use out of Jormungand's passive, but I'm not really too worried about it. Like I said, we just have a ton of stats and stuff like that. And realistically, if you want to use more red cards, because this team actually does have 2 red characters, you're more likely to draw red cards, of course. So yeah, if you want to maybe throw those away a little bit more often because you have a better chance of getting those, I would completely understand. Phase 2 here, he does have this damage reduction stack, so we're basically just going to throw away a bunch of bad cards first. So we go red into green into blue into a second red skill. The last skill that we use is the only one that's actually going to deal any damage, because you have to complete 1 full rotation of the color wheel before you actually can like start hurting the boss. So every skill that we do here is going to be fixed at 1 damage, as long as, I mean, depending on how many hits the animation for that skill has, it'll do, 3, 4 damage, whatever the case may be, but you're not obviously going to be able to kill the boss doing 1 damage at a time, so yeah, you definitely want to avoid that. The mechanic to this phase is that if you break the color wheel, you're actually going to freeze the character that breaks the color wheel. So that can be a little bit annoying, but you actually can use it to your advantage. If your team is not doing as much damage, you don't think you can kill on phase 2 right here, or turn 2 of this phase, you will actually want to break the color wheel, get frozen, so that way when he does one of these like crazy cards, I can't remember exactly which card it is, I think it's this one. Yeah, so if you have a frozen target on the field, you'll dodge this attack, which does 10,000% of his attack, which is an insta-kill basically. So you want to be frozen here if you don't think you can kill, but obviously, I mean, this team has so much damage on it, we're just going to go red, green, blue, and then red, and that's going to be more than enough to kill. So, I mean, realistically, you could just use a wrong last card like this, and if you didn't kill, you would get frozen, like Freyr would get frozen here, and then I would live the attack, but we have more than enough damage, so it's not really that big of a deal, so pretty much good to go. Phase 3s are pretty much always just like filler phases. Like you can just use this phase to sort of prep cards and get ready for the last phase. Make sure that you have what you need in hand, because like I said, we do have 2 red characters on the field, so making sure that we don't clog our hands up with a whole bunch of red cards would be ideal. We do have a couple of extra cards with some of these characters, so I think what we're going to do is just throw some of these out. That way we can go ahead and work on the HP of this phase, and at the same time we can proc Thonar's passive, rank up some cards, get some stats going. Just the typical sort of rotation for this. So yeah, Nanashi's not going to be able to do too much damage there, so we're probably not killing in one phase, which is fine. He does have like pretty high like increased HP, I guess, but realistically it's just the fact that Nanashi can't do a whole lot of damage. But I'm not gonna break the news to him, and we're just gonna let him think that he's doing a good job. So either way, yeah. So honestly, the tier weak point skills are basically a waste. The only time it's even good, really, is whenever he, AoEs too much and he disables himself, because I have Tarmia Link on Jormungand, which you don't even really need it, to be honest with you. But yeah, if he does disable himself, you can actually get some use out of the weak point skill, because he'll actually have a debuff on, but Tyr's passive does not proc in this phase, so I think what we're going to go ahead and do here is just throw these skills out right here, and that should be enough to go ahead and push the phase. I guess if you want to, don't be afraid to use these gold cards. I feel like I tend to try to keep them if possible, but realistically, if you're proccing Thonar's passive or Jormungand's passive as frequently as you might be, you're just going to rank up more cards into golds anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. So let's go for red into green into blue into red here. That should be more than enough to kill. This hopefully, yeah, does damage cap. That should be enough to hopefully lifesteal him back up to full, because he was missing a little bit of HP, and then, yeah, we're just going to continue on. I guess technically I could have just used the Freyr card first and killed in 3 cards, or maybe it would have been 2. I think it's 3, because I think he has a 30% damage cap on this phase. But, yeah, floor 2, pretty standard stuff, not really that crazy. Floor 3 is where it gets a little bit more annoying, but it's only really on the last phase. Alrighty, so here we are on the last floor, and the one thing that you gotta have to note in this first phase is that because we have Taunt up with Tyr, and he typically tends to fight Tyr regardless, you're going to get attack sealed. So every time that he does his little tentacle attack or whatever, he is actually going to attack seal Tyr, which isn't really that big of a deal. I mean, he is one of our like actual damage dealers. I mean, Jormungand and Nanashi aren't doing the most damage you've ever seen, but at the same time, I mean, him getting attack sealed for 1 turn really isn't that big of a deal. So this move right here, he's going to pull up some little like roots out of the ground and slap you with them. He gets attack sealed for a turn, and we live. It's fine. He's not doing a whole lot of damage or anything crazy, and we can just sort of prep cards and everything for this next phase. So I think we'll just go ahead and throw this card away. I guess we can... That'll actually kill, so we'll just move I thought that was going to merge for some reason, but we'll use this to kill. That'll merge. We'll get rid of the level 1 here, and then I think we'll just move this and move this so that way we can get those two closer to their ultimates, and we can save those cards for when we need them, because we have 2 red cards in hand, 2 blue cards in hand, one green, which could maybe be an issue if we don't pull extra ones. We did, but yeah, he doesn't have anything sort of like super crazy that you have to worry about on this phase. Not that I can remember. I'm not 100% sure what some of the mechanics do on this, because it's normally pretty easy. But yeah, we can start off with maybe blue, since we have a couple of extra blue cards in hand. So we'll go with like the weaker blue card first. So we go blue into red, into green, into blue. And we can go ahead and push phase. I mean, I don't think this is going to kill, but we can just sort of work on the health bar, of course. One thing to note is that in the final phase, having this buff removal card can be nice if it ends up taking you more than 2 turns to kill. Ideally, you want to try to beat it in 2 turns if possible, but having that buff removal card can be nice because he actually has an evasion skill that he like buffs up, and you can't hit him unless you remove that. And then after that, he puts up a stance, which is like incredibly annoying. You can't remove it. It counters you for like way too much damage, and you basically screw yourself out of the win at that point. So if you make it all the way to the point where he puts up the stance, you're basically screwed. So I would not advise that. But let's go ahead and throw away some of these tier weak point cards, and then I think this should be enough. We'll go ahead and waste this, and then we'll go ahead and merge this one, so that way, I mean, we were already going to draw her ultimate, but we'll guarantee it at this point. So boom, that does enough to kill. We're easy peasy going into the 3rd phase here. 3rd phase, like I said, is pretty typical. You don't have to worry about anything too crazy. You're kind of just prepping cards. One thing to note is that in the final phase, he does have an AoE ultimate removal. So you're only going to be able to get basically 1 ultimate off in that phase, which means that I'm going to try to make sure that we push for Freyr's ultimate, because I like having that one to be the one to use because it gets through 2 damage caps. And then I guess we'll throw away this well, we can throw this tier card away since we have a higher chance of getting red cards anyway. And that way we use 3 different characters' cards. We proc the passive on Jormungand, we get some stats, we get some, rank ups, which we're only going to be ranking up 1 card in hand, which isn't really that big of a deal. But yeah, we're going to get the ultimate with Freyr. I get Tyr and Freyr's names mixed up sometimes, but it's fine. But yeah, I like using this one because obviously it has death damage. It bypasses two damage caps, which is really, really nice. And yeah, we're just going to go ahead and use this to go ahead and, I mean, it gives us an attack-related stats increase, so we might as well use it. I'm not too worried about it. This, if we use the ult, it'll just go back into our hand because that's going to kill. So I think we go ahead and use this skill and then maybe push towards Jormungand's ultimate just in case we can't pull cards with her, because with only 1 card in hand, I'm a little skeptical. I maybe would have liked to have gotten rid of both of those ultimates right here, but yeah, we don't pull an extra Jormungand card, which is a little scary. But what we're going to do here is he does have this damage reduction stack on in this phase, so you want to make sure that you're starting with a red card into a green card into a blue card, and because we're not worried about it doing any damage at all, you can just throw away the really weak ones, and then we can finish up this phase or this turn with the Freyr ultimate. So that's going to do 2 damage caps worth of damage, which is like 60-something thousand damage, I think. It'll leave him with 40% HP left, which should give us a really good position to try and kill. And even if we don't pull the Jormungand cards, which I realistically, I don't think that using the Jormungand card is going to work. It might, because it's this card, and this card is typically weaker, I might be able to get away with it. I know that the buff removal cards sometimes will do too much damage, but if I go with this, and then I use that, hopefully that will kill, because for some reason, Freyr actually has, okay, so we ended up hitting too much. If you get him below 20%, he has a built-in damage, or a built-in revive, so if this happens to you, just close out of the game, and then when you open the game back up, it'll just let you resume from when you started your turn. Okay, so we're back in, and because we know that this skill is going to kill, I think what we're going to do is throw out the Nanashi skill, and then we will try to kill with the Freyr card. For whatever reason, Freyr's cards still hit damage cap through this. I think it's just because we have so much stats, but the Freyr cards just do a ridiculous amount of damage. So we were able to get him below 30%, just barely because of that skill. But as long as he doesn't get below 20%, he doesn't revive, and then you win, and it's easy peasy, good to go. So hopefully this was helpful. I know it's been a while since you've probably ran Deer, or if you're newer, maybe you're just, kind of getting into the swing of things. If you can get these characters, if you already have them, by all means, throw the team together. It's fantastic. Might take a little bit of investing and everything. Obviously some of these characters do have holy relics. Mainly 3 of them do. Tyr does not have one as of the time of me recording this, but hopefully it was helpful. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Feel free to subscribe if you have not already, and I will see you in the next one.